So I wonder if you took a piece of paper out and you made two columns on that paper and you wrote your name in one of the columns and Jesus in the other column. And then you went to write the qualities that you have as a person. And then you wrote the qualities that you see Jesus having. Do you think that those two columns would be the same? Well, author Scott McKnight, he's actually done this exercise with a lot of groups, and he said the funniest thing happens every single time he does it. What happens is that people's qualities usually match pretty well with what they think Jesus's qualities are. And he says the funny thing about it is it's not as if these people are perfect people who follow Jesus really well. Instead, it actually just shows that we too often as human beings just make Jesus's image into our image. Instead of following who Jesus is, we instead just make Jesus like us. Now that makes a lot of sense, doesn't it? Because in our world, we usually find things that we already believe in and just confirm that. We go on the internet and the things that we believe in, we read people who think like us. When we have friends, we usually have friends with people who confirm the things that we already believe. Even we go to churches that probably believe exactly what we already thought. We live in a world where we're constantly just confirming what we already believe in. So it's no wonder that we are people who probably make Jesus just like us. But Jesus lived a very, very different way. In fact, in the book of Matthew, there's this passage where Jesus is actually accused of eating with people that he shouldn't be eating with. Mainly, the religious teachers of the day were upset at him because he was eating with a bunch of tax collectors and sinners, people who were outcasts, people with Jesus' standing shouldn't be hanging out with. But instead, Jesus is doing something very important here. He's teaching us about his qualities, the way that he should be living. And we should conform ourselves to that image instead of making Jesus just who we already are. Now, I heard recently Pastor Chad Veach in a book that he wrote called Help, I Work with People. He said that, usually when people think about others, they think, people, I have to deal with this person or these people are so difficult. And he said, I take a different approach. I think people, nice. People I get to serve. People who have passions and gifts. People that I get to be a part of their lives. It's a very, very different way of thinking about it. In a sense, it's trying to conform to the qualities of Jesus instead of letting Jesus just conform to whatever we already are. And he said that for leaders, we have to be leaders who don't stand on other people and put other people down. Instead, we have to let people stand on our shoulders so that they can be encouraged and use their gifts. It's a very different way of thinking about Jesus because we all conform Jesus into who we already are instead of following the Jesus that eats with tax collectors and sinners, people that were very different from Jesus. Now, one day, years ago, I was officiating a wedding, and one of the people in the wedding, one of the groomsmen, was very different from me. Like, everything was different. I didn't think we had anything in common. I'm sure our politics were different, and the way we lived was different, and the things that we believed in were different. Everything was different. We wore different clothes. We had different types of friends. We probably shouldn't ever be in contact or hanging out together. Society is kind of determined where we're supposed to be, and we shouldn't really interact with each other. But Jesus taught us something different, didn't he? And I remember at that wedding that we ended up starting a conversation, and by the end of the night, he actually wanted me to pray with him and his son. it was so different because although we're not perfect people, we kind of pushed aside this way that we confirm what we already know about people or think about people as like, ugh, people. And instead, we try to follow this Jesus, who instead says, it's not that I'm trying to conform to your image and confirm what you already believe about the world. I'm trying to shatter the way that you think about people and instead see them through my eyes and through my life. And in that way, we can be people who, instead of living a life where we're just making Jesus who we already are, and instead sitting at the table with Jesus, who has tax collectors and sinners and even us at the table. Amen.